Hello, you guys.
Hi.
Welcome back to our channel. We have a very special guest today, and I do want to give a little call back to the very first YouTube video that was ever posted on this channel because someone made an appearance. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. So what you don't see is my friend Chelsea behind the camera right now, who's over here because she pressed record. Sometimes this channel will just be me and you chatting, or you might even see this guy pop in, or you might even see this girl pop in. And now she's actually popping back in the channel 4 years later?
I think so.
I think 4 years later. Okay.
I really intended to be on more. I just pressed record a lot.
Yeah. Honestly, I give Chelsea so much prop because I don't know if the channel would have ever started had she not come over that day and actually pressed record, because even when she did come over, she thought I was gonna be ready to do it, and I was in my pajamas, and I was like, I just don't think that today's the day. And she's like, I just drove in LA traffic to press record for you. So you're gonna get dressed and we're gonna film this video.
Not that you even needed
a good friend.
anyone to press record for you, because you could do it and walk over.
Yeah, but I didn't.
Sometimes you need that support,
I needed the support. So anyways, we are here now and we're gonna do a fun little girly Q&A. We posted over on Instagram and you guys submitted all of your questions. So what we tried to do was go through the questions and see what was asked the most, and we're gonna answer those right now. So the first one was obviously just, how did we even meet? What was our love story, Chelsea?
What was our meet cute?
Yeah. You wanna tell it?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll tell my side of it.
Yeah, you tell your side.
Your side
Yeah,
of it.
okay.
I had a place in LA, and
You
I
still
didn't own this place, but
Same place.
renting
You
a
still
place,
live
yeah,
there.
I still do.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to sublet out one of the bedrooms, and I knew Chad. I'd met Chad not that long prior at just a mutual friend's birthday party. Through a friend, kind of got contacted by him, and he was like, hey, my girlfriend's moving from Florida. I think she'd be perfect. And I was like, no. Okay, a couple of reasons, none of them are good on me. I was making some judgments without knowing Tori. One, I've experienced a lot of really pretty girls being me.
And you knew I was a pageant girl.
I did.
Yeah.
I didn't know a lot about pageant girls, so I'm not like, pageant girls are great. I know that now. I didn't know that at the time. You were what, like third runner-up, second runner-up at Miss America? And I was like, that sounds like a girl who would be mean. I know now that that is not true.
Yeah.
But so I was like, no on that. And plus I was in like hardcore in the season of singleness. And I was like, I don't know if I want this lovey-dovey couple in my face all the time.
Yeah.
So I strongly felt no. Even though everyone else around me was like, Tori's amazing, it would be fantastic. I strongly felt no. So I prayed about it, and God was like, it's Tori. And I tried to tell God otherwise.
You're like, it is not her. Not her.
And so,
despite FaceTime.
Yeah. But actually, I think by that point, I was already knowing that I was supposed to be obedient to God. I didn't like say like, hey, it's you, but I was like, oh, God's really wanting me to pick this girl. For both reasons. One, kind of, I think he was saying, I think our friendship was definitely just meant to be.
Yeah.
But also, I realized even the relationship part that I had kind of brought up to God, I think God was really telling me I needed a really good example of a good, solid Christian couple in my life. Yeah, I don't know if I've actually told her that.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think I needed that as well. My family's not in the faith, so I didn't have that growing up, and so I think that was like to be example for me as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. So then we had a FaceTime call.
Yeah.
We talked for forever on FaceTime, and I remember I was actually with my mom and a friend of mine and her mom. And I like walked back in the room and I was like, yeah, 100% gonna be friends with that girl. Like, I love her. I literally had to get off the phone because I'm like with company right now, so I should probably go.
We're just chatting.
We're just chatting away. And then it's just so funny because I'm like literally moving across America into this room with this girl that I never met in person. I'm like, what is even happening right now? And the funniest part of the story, so Chelsea is an actress. The day I'm moving in, she is walking out for like an intense audition. And so I'm like moving in with my suitcases and everything, and she's kind of like
I think it's
coming
important
out.
to say an intense audition where I was going to be playing this like psycho, like murderous girl. So I'm like, hair is super slicked back, like dark makeup, not at all my personality.
Not Chelsea. And so I was like, oh. And she like walks by. But then literally the next day, Chad was flying out. And another girlfriend like helping me decorate the room and everything. And then that night, she literally set up like a new roomy party, like a dinner, and
a little dinner party.
Yeah, and we literally, I think, talked till like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Just us. Everyone else
left.
Yeah,
but we just like sat there and talked till really late. And I think we that night had the realization of like, there's so much room for activity here.
Look at all this floor space.
So
We
much,
do aerobics in here.
so many activities.
Yeah, like, did
Are
we
we gonna
just
become best friends?
Did we just become best friends?
Yep.
Yes.
Like that just happened. And then literally, I think it was like from 0 to 100 in the first week. We
I
started
would say like 48 hours before best friends.
Yeah, and there's so many more stories to tell you guys.
Moral of that story though, don't like judge a book by its cover. Don't be closed off to what you think is like not your type of friendship.
Yeah.
Like expect the unexpected in those like friendships and opportunities. So glad I was obedient to God.
Same. I mean, she literally was in our wedding a couple months later.
Well, 8 months later.
But like I asked you to be in the wedding like 2 months later.
Less than that.
I was like, so I know it's like kind of weird because we like just became friends, but like I'm pretty sure you're supposed to be in my wedding.
I was like, I at this point would have been offended if you didn't ask.
Literally. Okay, so next question, and I feel like this was really good considering what we just talked about. How do you navigate friendship when you are in different seasons of life? So literally since we met, we've always been in a different season.
Yeah.
Like you were walking through singleness as Chad and I were walking really like engagement, because we didn't date that long in LA before we got engaged. So we were like engagement
and early marriage. Yeah.
I feel like maybe it would be better for you to answer that than me, because I feel like sometimes, at least when we talk about comparison on the channel, I feel like it's harder on this side where it's like, oh, they're doing that now and I'm still in the season that she was in previously.
Like I think that's something you have to work on within yourself, because it has to do with, are you able to find contentment in your season?
Yeah.
Or are you waiting for the next season for contentment?
Yeah.
Like I'll be happy when I graduate college, when I get that job, when I get that promotion, when I get that boyfriend, when I get that girlfriend, when I get that spouse, when I get that baby.
Yes.
If that's the way you feel, you're not going to be happy then either.
Ever. There's always something else.
Yeah.
Totally.
If you're content in the season you are, and like trusting God in the season you are, then it's not going to affect your friendship whatsoever.
Yeah.
In fact, it was like great to experience that, because there were so many things I felt like I was learning from kind of what Tori was going through. So many things she was able to speak into in my seasons, and it like worked. Plus being single meant we had way more time together.
Yeah, so pretty much if I wasn't with Chad, I was with Chelsea, because you guys know that like alone time wasn't really a thing I cared about until recently. Like now I like alone time, and I think it's because I'm a mom, and so like I'm always needed. And so like when I do have just like a shower by myself, I'm like, wow, this is really nice. But in that season, Chad had his men's group on Tuesday nights, and so Chelsea just pretty much knew like, so Tuesday nights we're hanging out and we'd always get our acai bowls. But I feel like if y'all are in that season where you are struggling with comparison, I'll also link the video that we recently did on comparison, because we tackle like the root of comparison and also multiple ways to combat that and actually walk confidently in your unique identity in Christ. Because just like Chelsea was talking about, it really comes down to, do you believe who God says you are, and that you've been purposed to do something so unique? And so when you're in that mindset, like her journey doesn't impact you because God's doing something totally separate. And so you can look at that and like learn from it, but it's just
celebrate
it. And celebration is just like a huge key, I feel like, in combating comparison in general in any stage of life. I mean, we talked about it when we were going through trying to have a baby, you know, like celebrating every single time a friend got pregnant, and it like literally being a kick in the face to the enemy, because it's like he wants to use that to rob you and make you think that God is limited in his blessings, when it's literally the complete opposite. So anyways, how to find new community when moving to a new state. So I will say that my experience in LA was slightly abnormal. Like it was
Not slightly,
very abnormal. But if I can give any advice from like looking back, it's if you have one friend, like if you can meet one person, ask them to introduce you to their friends, you know, like, because if you really gel with this one person, then most likely people that she gels with, you might gel with as well. And so the beautiful part of LA, for me at least, I met Chelsea. I met my friend Nicole, who also has been on this channel before. I'll link the video here. I met my friend Riley, also been on this channel. I'll link some videos here. I met all of them separately. And I was like, oh my goodness, these are like powerhouse women of God. And they all need to meet. I mean, I literally remember being in Santa Monica with Riley, and she asked me, she's like, why do you feel like God purposed you to be in LA? And I'm like, I've been here 2 weeks, my girl. But I just even remember that specifically right then, me being like, I feel like I'm here to connect these women. And it's so cool now to like literally see all of y'all hang out all the time, because as much as I have FOMO sometimes, it's like such a blessing to see, because I'm like, man, how cool is God that he wants to use us? And I can see that, and it not be like a prideful thing of like, oh, they would have never met without me or anything, but like how God can use you as a tool to build his kingdom it should excite you. Like, it should really excite you, because we are built for community. And I know that like I do not thrive when I do not have girl time and community. And so I just encourage you to like, number one, like Chelsea was saying, like, don't dismiss a potential friendship based off of like what you think this person might be like. And then two, be intentional to be like, oh, if I really want to get to know this person, reach out, make sacrifices. Friendships like really do require sacrifices
And
intentionality, which I feel like leads into the next question, which is how to maintain long distance friendships.
Yeah.
So we've been long distance friends now for
Longer than we were short distance friends.
Really?
Yeah. You lived in LA for 2 years, you've been gone 3. It's wild.
I've been gone 3.
Yeah.
You want to tackle this?
Sure. I just want to mention one thing on the last one too.
Yeah.
I think really saying yes to every opportunity to go places, even if you don't know people and you're like,
Yes.
I made that mistake when I moved to LA. Tori's right. A lot of my community I have now, I only have because I met them through Tori. She was there 2 years. I've been there 7. So, okay. But when I first moved to LA, I got in a relationship and I didn't go out and say yes to all the things and go to all the places. And, you know, I was just content there, which isn't a bad thing, but I wasn't actually as content as I thought I would. I was not thriving. I like needed the girls, and it took getting out of that relationship to start saying yes to all the things, going the places, even if I felt like I don't really want to.
And honestly, you guys, sometimes it's even better to go when you don't know someone.
Yeah.
Because something I learned in LA was I get invited to like certain, it's gonna sound so weird, but like influencer-y events. And sometimes I would have a +1 and actually decide to go by myself because I knew myself. Whereas like if I bring a friend, I'm gonna stick with that friend the entire time, and I'll go and I'll see it and we'll have fun together. And I mean, we did it all the time. But sometimes I would decide to go because it would force me to meet new people and make new relationships, and it gets you out of your comfort zone a little bit. And I'm not saying that it's easy, but I'm saying it's worth it.
Yeah.
And I feel like relationships and friendships that are God honoring are so worth it. Like, push past that resistance, because honestly I think the resistance is from the enemy, like, and he'll breed it in like insecurity or like, I don't want her to think I'm weird or, you know, whatever. But like, God honors that, and God, like, he literally built you for community. So push past the resistance and actually like say yes, say hi. The worst thing that can happen is like you don't gel and then you move on, you know? And so I think sometimes for me, when I'm like having one of those internal conversations, it's like literally what's the worst that can happen? Okay, so then long distance relationships.
Long distance friendships. To be honest, it's not something I'm great at. Like, I'll be real on that. I'm not great at the...
That's not true. I would say you're not the best texter ever.
Yes. I'm a
You're
bad texter.
really bad texter.
Said everyone who has ever been friends with me ever.
But you are intentional in the sacrifice to like literally take trips across the country to make our friendship.
Yeah, and it's like we never separated when we're together, and so you do have to have the intentionality to do that. But sometimes scheduling doesn't work, or finances doesn't work, or whatever it is for a particular person. So I think being intentional in whatever way works for you. Yeah. So I know the texting intentionality doesn't work for me.
So that's why I just FaceTime her all the time.
Yeah. Or I'm like, okay, Tori and I haven't talked in a while. I'm gonna come see her. This
Literally.
was a very impromptu trip.
Like, what, 2-3 weeks ago maybe?
We hadn't like talked enough, and I
Yeah.
hadn't seen her, and I needed that. So I think finding the rhythm and the intentionality
Yeah.
to still pour into the friendship that works for you in your kind of life season.
I also just think like there's so much beauty in FaceTime. Like I think that yes, the trips for us are so important, but really like you're the one friend from LA that like we do trips all the time to like maintain the friendship. But I still have so many friends that are in California, and the way that we maintain the friendship is like FaceTime calls, because it really does make you feel like you're in the room with them, and it's an easy way to catch up, to keep the connection, and just stay in touch. And that's what I think will really work better if finances are not there, because cross-country trips are not cheap. Like they definitely are a sacrifice, but FaceTime calls, texting, making sure that you're not thinking that you know what they're going through because of what they post on Instagram, like actually checking in on your friends. Because let me tell you, like if people are fighting like with their spouse or having a hard time with their kids, that's not what they're posting on Instagram. And so you might see like, oh, they seem great, like awesome, I love seeing their life. But a text message or like, hey, I'm thinking about you, I'm praying for you, how can I pray for you specifically today? Those kind of texts, they mean a lot, and they also like can go a far way in like maintaining a friendship where like it's harder to just see each other and make it work. The next question is, what do you differ the most from each other?
A good bit.
Yeah, literally, it's funny how close we are because we're similar in a lot of ways, but we're actually very different in a lot of ways too.
We're similar in the ways that are important.
Yeah.
And kind of different in everything else.
Okay, so one example.
One thing I love about the differences between us is I do think it's a really good balance. I won't even say weakness, but like the differences like complement each other.
Yeah.
So we led Bible study together, and it was so funny because I am a planner. I want to like do the research, I want to do the prep, I want to have like talked through, written out, all the things. So if we're leading Bible study together, I want to get there like 3 hours before and just prep all of it. Tori,
I'm not like that. And it's funny because Chad is way more like that too, and how we end up like complimenting, because I don't plan or prep for like YouTube videos. I'm like, I want to talk about comparison. Let's like press record. And Chad's like, what's the do we have talking points yet? And I feel like our dynamic is literally so similar.
Totally.
Where I'm like, oh, I really wanted to like read this scripture, and you're like, and then what? And I'm like, then I'm gonna talk about it. Yeah. Like, which
is beautiful, and I think has grown in me a lot, because so much of what Tori says is like Holy Spirit led and like very in the moment and genuine. If I'm giving a talk somewhere, I realize I'm actually better when I'm on the fly, like you.
So am I. Yeah.
But I like need the prep. Grown in me the ability to like balance both. But I mean, there's so many other differences between us. Even when Tori said she always needs people,
she doesn't. But you need me.
Yes. Well, no, I need my people, but I need alone time too.
Yeah.
So even when we lived together until they got married, it was wonderful and amazing. But I feel like when you first moved in, like you even wanted to like come burst in my room in the morning and like hang out, and I'm like, okay, but also
like I need me time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not communicating that. I think it's really important in friendships too, because I think that in relationships in general, expectations are like the #1 killer. If I expected Chelsea to just relate with me on every single aspect, and she's like good hanging out 24/7, then I'm gonna literally hang out with her 24/7, because I love people time, and I can just like be in your presence and not talk. But because I know Chelsea needs alone time, then I can respect that boundary, celebrate her alone time with Jesus, you know, because no one wants to hang out when like you're not really in the mood to hang out.
But what was cool, it actually became, as we got closer, like I still felt like I was getting alone time even when we were together, which sounds bad, but it is good. It's like I'm so comfortable with Tori. It's not like draining like if I was with a big group of, you know, people. Just kind of friends, you know, that can be good and draining. So then it became that same restorative, but we had to get there.
Yeah. I also feel like in our really intense desires, like in terms of like, I like could not wait to be wife and mom, and like you're like content, you know? And I think that almost was like helpful even in regards to like our friendship and the season and everything else. Like you're good where you're at. I'm not like rushing into anything. And so I feel like that was that was helpful, but we definitely differ in
Totally.
that way.
I love Micah to absolute pieces.
He loves her.
Don't need a baby right now. You know, like, I'm good.
She's totally fine. And last but not least, because I feel like this is a really great question in general, is how do you make and maintain godly community? And I feel like LA, and I say this on the channel all the time, it was just such a special season of godly community for us. But how do you feel?
I mean, the first thing for me was like praying for it. Mm-hmm. So coming from a family that wasn't in the faith and then coming to Christianity on my own, I really tried to do Christianity as like a solo activity.
And how old
Don't
you were? Like
recommend.
early 20s?
I was a teenager when I officially gave my life to Christ, but then I feel like it didn't really, like, you don't grow in it individually. And so I really didn't, I like got baptized at 24.
Yeah.
Because that's when I started to step into Christian community and grow in it, and actually was like, okay, I've kind of been doing this for a while, but let's really do it now. Yeah. And that's when things started to shift. Yeah. But I prayed. I didn't have any Christian friends when I was living in Virginia, and it was something I had to really pray for. And I actually think that was a reason I was brought to Los Angeles, was that like separation. Not that you always, I'm not saying you have to cut every non-Christian friend you have out, but there needs to be an intentionality and a space for that as well. Right. That intentionality of like, what do you actually want and what is important to you was like kind of step one for me.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I think in regards to like who you surround yourself with, and we talk about this all the time, it's like, show me your 5 closest friends, and it's actually gonna tell me a lot about who you are, because who you're around, it impacts you. When we're talking about godly community, y'all, it is important. It is so, so vitally important. For me, I think it's, again, it like comes back down to intentionality. I wanna surround myself with people that when I go to them for advice, I know that they're pulling from biblical wisdom, and they're gonna point it out if I'm like wrong. Like, I want that. I don't want people like tickling my ear and just being my cheerleader. Like, I want them pointing me to Jesus. And if I'm wrong, tell me, because what's your goal, right? Like, what's the goal of the friendship? Is it just to like make you feel good? Or is it to help you grow in Christ? Like, help you move forward to where you actually want to be? I've had a lot of friends throughout my life, and it's not saying anything bad about any of my friends, but like, there were certain crowds that did not bring out the best of me at all. I think that we go through this as Christians, like, oh, well, I want to be a light in this space, but it takes maturity to do that. Yeah. For a while, I was too immature spiritually to be a light. It just dimmed my light. And it was that whole verse of like, don't think of yourself too highly than you ought. Yeah. And I think I did. And then it just ended up with me in a spiral of sin. But yeah, when you surround yourself with godly community, it's like there's a peace and there's a comfort, because you know you're not like gonna be tempted. Be wary of how you feel when you leave the room. Like, when you're creating friendships, when you walk out of the door, do you feel like they're gonna talk bad about you? Because I've experienced that, and it's not a good feeling. Like, you wanna be around people that you know when you walk out of the room that it is positive, and it is nothing that they would say not with you standing in the room. And that's what I felt like in LA. You knew that your presence was invited and welcome. Like we were just talking about like that. There's a difference between just being invited into a space and being welcome into a space, and you can like feel that difference. And one last thing, if you're really searching for good friendships, you first have to be a good friend. And so like thinking about how you treat your friends, how intentional you want to be, are you willing to sacrifice, are you willing to reach out, and not expecting something of someone else that you're not willing to actually give. Yeah. And so I think it's always really important to like look inward. And if you feel like maybe that's not you, ask God, like, Lord, help develop that within me, that I'm willing to go the extra mile, that you give me eyes to see the opportunities to love on my friends, to see them, to mourn with them, and to celebrate them, and to walk through these different seasons of life with them, because those seasons of life, it grows. It like, we have a history, you know what I mean? Like, we've been through things together, and it like develops the depth of a friendship. We definitely have a unique story, so I'm not saying that like every friend you meet, you're gonna have that moment where you're like, did we just become best friends? And it be like that. But I am saying that like there are people out there who are praying for godly community too.
Yeah.
And you could be that answered prayer to someone. And so putting yourself out there, asking, like you have no idea if you saying hello is literally that girl's answered prayer.
Yeah.
Because like they need a friend too.
And not just hello, but you know, I've had times where I've like when Tori left, I was so worried because I spent so much of my time with her. Even though I had other friends, I was like, am I gonna have that deep, close, connected, godly friendship?
Yeah.
So I just started like, hey, do you want to get coffee?
Yeah.
To like several girls in our circle all the time because do I think it's good? Our friendship did kind of fall into my lap, but that's not always gonna happen.
Yeah.
And so like, and then connecting people and being really intentional about it and putting yourself out there. And as you were saying, like stretching yourself and doing what might be uncomfortable because you know you're gonna grow that way.
Yeah. So good. Yay. Okay, y'all, that was so much fun. Thank Chelsea for popping onto the channel in the comments. If this was encouraging to you, make sure to like it, share it with a friend, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.